We're now in Genesis chapter 47. Continuing from last week, where we left off, Jacob and all his sons and family of 66 persons actually arrived in Egypt, met up with Joseph, and Joseph brought them to the land of Goshen. Right? Goshen is a very fertile land, and I will show you a picture on a map where it is so that we have a better understanding. And Joseph told the brothers what to say when they come and meet Pharaoh, and how the conversation was supposed to go. So now in chapter 47, the story picks up when Joseph went and told Pharaoh. And the word tell, in this case, that's translated as told, literally means to stand in front. Stand in front of Pharaoh to speak to him. So literally, Joseph is face to face with Pharaoh and saying these things. It says, my father and my brothers, their flocks, their herds, all that they possess have come from the land of Canaan, and they are in the land of Goshen. And Joseph took 5 of the brothers and presented them to Pharaoh. And then Pharaoh said to the brothers, what do you do? Occupation means what do you normally do when you walk around? That's basically what the word is. So we translate it as occupation. And then they said to Pharaoh, it says, your servants. Now notice, this word is important because it is about the different levels. The brothers of Joseph treats the Pharaoh as really the king and considers themselves as servants, meaning people who will take instructions from Pharaoh. So they told Pharaoh that they were shepherds. Now, what do you mean by shepherds? It means that they take care of animals in the pasture. So this is what they say. They take care of animals in pasture lands. So these are grazing animals, and they take care of these kinds of animals. So it says, both we and our fathers. So it's telling the Pharaoh that throughout their generations, they are all, for lack of a better word, shepherds. They take care of animals where the animals will graze in grasslands and they drink from the rivers. That's their family occupation, lack of a better word. And so they said to Pharaoh, we have come to dwell. And this word literally means to sit. Now, obviously, to say we have come to sit is not a very English way of saying, but it's a Hebrew way of expression. We are coming here to sit down here in the land. And so a more proper English word would be to dwell, to stay, to live in the land. But the actual action is literally to sit there. Because your servants have no pasture for their flocks. We don't have grasslands. And so our flocks that we take care will have nothing to eat. For the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. That is why we are here. Now therefore, please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And it's important for us to realize this Goshen. But I want to move down a little bit before we take a look at the pictures. Then Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, your father and your brothers have come to you. You would say that this is stating the obvious because Joseph was bringing them to see the Pharaoh. So you notice the way that the Orientals speak, even the Egyptians speak, it's like the Chinese. When you come and you see people eating and then you ask, are you eating? So they are speaking the obvious because they are stating a position. And so your father and brothers have come to you, obviously, because the brothers were just speaking to Pharaoh. But it is a precursor to the instructions that Pharaoh is giving to Joseph. It is the context of the instruction. Pharaoh is saying the land of Egypt is before you. The word, the land of Egypt is before you, means that the land of Egypt is in your face. He says, Joseph, you can see this land of Egypt. The instructions of Pharaoh would be, have your father and brothers dwell. Remember the word dwell? Sit. In the best of the land. And the word best is translated, it's about good. It is the most good. That is the literal meaning. So we have an English word called best. So the Pharaoh told Joseph to place the entire family in the land of Goshen, right? Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And that in itself relates to the best of the land. And you must understand, the best of the land is not a generic best. This would mean that the best of the land that relates to pastures. Pastures, right? For the flock. They are shepherds. They need pasture land. So the best land for pasture will be in Goshen. And moreover, this was a surprising expression from Pharaoh. If you know any competent man among them, make them the chief husband over my livestock. There are people in Egypt who takes care of these things for the Pharaoh because they also have to eat, right? We discussed that in the question and answer last week. But they do not, they particularly do not have people who are very good in this. They spend their time doing other things and they worship some of these animals. And so they do not spend that kind of time. And so the best of the herdsmen should come from Joseph's family, because Joseph's brother said these words right here. He says, your servants are shepherds, both we and our fathers. For generations we've been doing this. So Pharaoh was very happy to place all these animals that they have under their care. Let me take a break from this and show you the land of Goshen. Let me enlarge this. This is how we would see the pattern. This is Hebron. This is where they live. And so I am asking to be aware that that is the journey that they took. As you can see, this journey is very interesting. It goes from here all the way to this place. Now, I would submit to you that this line is imaginary. We don't really know how the path is, so I just draw a line across the Sinai from Hebron to Avaris. Now, this map puts Avaris, but you need to know that Goshen is very much this area here. That's Goshen, okay? Avaris is one time the capital, but there are many capitals in Egypt anyways. But this is the easier way to draw a picture. So this is just to give us an idea. They traveled this distance, all of them, into Egypt, being planted in Goshen. This is another picture to show you that this would be an easier route to take and not down here and come out. I have gone through the Sinai Peninsula and I tell you that there is a coastal highway But the coastal highway is never used because there is a lot of terrorists on the other side. And so all the trips in Egypt to Israel will always take the coastal highway down the tip of the Sinai Peninsula here and back up. Now, let me show you another map of Goshen, and this should give you a better picture. Goshen would be here. And we also read another place called Ramesses. We don't really know where Ramesses is, but possibly here. Right? Ramesses. Ramses. Ramesses. There are many capitals of Egypt, as I had mentioned to you. And let me show you. Ramses is one before. Avaris is one. And down here, Memphis used to be one. And I was in Memphis end of last year. And these were all old capitals. Today, the capital of Egypt is in Cairo. And most of them are along the Nile River. But one of the things that you do notice is that when Goshen, considered the best of the pasture lands, was given to the Israelites, you can safely imagine that they are quite away from the life and hustle and bustle of Egypt. And hence they are protected by the Pharaoh, and yet they have the freedom to grow and do their things. And so you can see that they have a land within the land of Egypt. We will continue from verse 7. We left off talking about Goshen. I tried to show you why it's the best in the land, where it is in the land of Egypt. Understand, the land of Egypt is very huge. And Goshen is in the, what we call the lower Nile, right? The lower Egypt. Lower Egypt. And lower is actually a definition of the terrain. The river always flows from higher to lower, upper to lower. So the inland, the southern part of Egypt, where the Nile is flowing towards the river mouth, it is called Upper Egypt. And towards the river mouth, where the deltas are and where Goshen is called Lower Egypt. And that's where you have fertile land. And that was where Israel or Jacob and the family was located. So in verse 7, Joseph brought his father and set him before Pharaoh. Understand, this is in front of Pharaoh. Literally looking at Pharaoh. And interestingly, you must see here that Jacob was blessing Pharaoh. Right? Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Now, Pharaoh may not be worshiping the God of Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but Jacob blesses Pharaoh because Pharaoh has done something good to Jacob and the family, giving them the best of the land in the land of Goshen amongst the land of Egypt. And so this blessing is pronounced upon Pharaoh that God will bless Pharaoh. And this is not all pharaohs, but particularly this one who allowed them to live amongst them at the height of the famine. And so blessing another person is very interesting. See, you bless when you are the older. And Jacob definitely is much older than Pharaoh. And Pharaoh and Jacob pronounces a blessing that God will bless Pharaoh, and we don't know what it said, but blessing here would be good things, right, upon Pharaoh. Now, how do we know that Jacob is older than Pharaoh? Pharaoh asks Jacob, how old are you? Because visibly he can tell that he is very, very old. And so verse 9, Jacob said to Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years, right? 130 years. Very few people live that old, obviously, and he's saying, I lived 130 years. Now, understand this word pilgrimage. It is about the lifetime, but lifetime spent walking on earth. And this is how it's expressed. The days of the years of the life on earth as I walked this earth. That is what pilgrimage actually means. 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life. There are many things that have gone wrong. So remember, evil. Evil means things that is not going right in his sight. So this is Jacob talking, that many things have gone wrong in his life, right? Few would be the number of years is few. Compared to what? Compared to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Who are these fathers? That would be Isaac, Abraham, all the way up to Shem, the son of Noah, all the way up there. And so Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. So in this conversation, you would see a difference. The brothers call themselves servants to Pharaoh. Jacob, without saying anything, blessing Pharaoh. Notice? Shows that Jacob is the superior to Pharaoh in terms of age. And blessing comes when you're older and you bless the younger. And we'll read this in the next few chapters because Jacob would be growing so old towards the end of his days. Verse 11, Joseph situated his father. Verse 11, in terms of situating, you see another of such words, made to sit. So we have the word sit, dwell, live, stay, and here situated. And so again, I point out to you that the English Bible is filled with synonyms. And so you can't really tell when you're using the same word. So in Hebrew, they are quite okay using the same words. So Joseph sat his father and his brothers and gave them a possession. This is important. This is a property, a landed property. In this idea called possessions, it is with regards to, how should we say, something that they own, right? Ownership. This would be ownership of the land of Egypt. And notice, the best of the land, again, best would be in terms of its function to pasture land. And in the land of Ramesses, well, this is the first time we pick up this word Ramesses, and this would be commonly understood as Goshen as well. We shall read this Ramesses in Exodus chapter 13 and 14, in the time where they left the land. And so this could be another name for Goshen, which is Ramesses. Now, understand this, Ramesses is the name of a pharaoh. And they would name places. So being Oriental and being Egyptian, they are just like us. It's to immortalize or make a memorial of the kings that have passed by. So Goshen, equivalent to Ramesses. As the Pharaoh had commanded, you need to understand that although Joseph put them into the land of Goshen, it was not until Pharaoh had instructed Joseph that it became final. Although Joseph was number one in the land, we also need to understand that the final authority comes from Pharaoh. So only when Pharaoh had commanded that it become final. Then Joseph provided his father, brothers, and all his father's household with bread. Remember, bread is lachem, right? Like Bethlehem would be house of bread, Bethlehem, according to the number in their families. Why? Because that would be a rationing, right? Ration. It's like water rationing, food rationing, more mouths, more food. And so this is an idea of fairness. Okay? An idea of fairness. Now, in this next section, we will see something different. And the tone in this passage is different because it is describing how Joseph dealt with the famine. It is over with the description of the narrative with regards to Jacob and the family. In verse 13 onwards, this is the height of the famine. Remember, the famine is 7 years. They are into the 3rd year of the famine and there was no bread. In all the land, remember, this land would be Egypt. And the famine was very severe, so that 2 places, the land of Egypt and Canaan, was languished. This is a very strange verse, a word. And the word here is faint. Right? And the reason why it is faint, it is exhaustion, it's language, is because, when you've got nothing to eat, people go crazy. And this is the imagery that is defined. Both the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan. Because of the famine. Nothing to eat. They are facing hunger. Right? The word famine literally means hunger. I know our English word famine means nothing to eat, but the word here in the Hebrew literally means being hungry. Verse 14, and Joseph gathered, and this word gathered, up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. Right? Money is to be paid for grain. Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. Now, this is a very shrewd way of making money for the Pharaoh. So, Joseph was also a very good economist. But I want to point out the word gathered. The word gathered is interesting because it's the same word as in the book of Ruth, which we're studying in the weekday, where Ruth went to gather up the barley, picking up the little bits and pieces. That's what the word gathered means. So Joseph went to pick up all the little bits and pieces of money, whatever else that's found in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, for selling grain to them. Verse 15, when the money failed in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan. What do you mean failed? Completed is the word. And it literally means finished. There was no more money. Completely gone. All the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us bread. For why should we die in your presence, in your face? For the money has failed. What is failed? Well, there is no more money. Ended. All the silver has ended. Okay? Now look at what Joseph did. Joseph then said, give me your livestock. This is interesting. The livestock means what? The livestock means the cattle, the domesticated animals. These are the animals that they kept for whatever the purpose. Joseph is going to use these livestock as money so that they can buy bread for the livestock. If you have no more money, give me all these animals. And so they brought all these domesticated animals to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, flocks, herds, donkeys. And thus he fed them with the bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. So remember, money went out, now trading with livestock, right? Domesticated animals. And when that year had ended, they came to him the next year. And still, we're talking about the 5th year of the famine. And said, we won't hide from my Lord that our money is gone, and so has our herds of livestock. There is nothing left in the sight of my Lord. You can see, we have nothing left. But what do we have? We have bodies and we have lands. And again, the same expression. Why should we die in your face? Right? Both we and our land. And so now they are offering, buy us. Verse 19. The word 19 would be literally, right? Literally, to acquire. Acquire. Acquire us and our land in exchange for bread, and we and our land, and we be servants of the Pharaoh. Give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land may not be desolate. Now, this is important. If they sell the land and nobody works on the land is as good as gone. In fact, it will be of no value. And so the people said, you know what? We will sell you the land and we will be the servants of Pharaoh. Give us the seed so that we can continue to plant so that the land will not die itself. Be desolate actually means be ruined. Now, since we are all not farmers, we won't understand this. If the land is not tilled, the land will not have life and will not give life. Even though it may be good land in Egypt, it will all go away. And so they know. And so they said, I will sell you the land to the Pharaoh, and you give us seed so that you will continue to plant and grow in the land. Now notice what Joseph did. Joseph here bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. Not for himself. You notice, Joseph serves the Pharaoh. For every man of the Egyptians sold his field because the hunger was severe, the famine was severe. And so the land became Pharaoh. So all of the land became the Pharaoh's land. Verse 21, and as for the people, what are you going to do? Move them to the cities so that they can feed them easier. From one end of the borders of Egypt to the other end, and all go back to the cities. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had rations allotted to them by Pharaoh, and they ate their rations with Pharaoh give them, therefore they did not sell their land. So the lands of the priests, so the religious items are kept separate. Verse 23, Joseph said to the people, indeed, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the harvest that you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, 4/5 your own, as seed for the field and for your food, so that those of your household and the food for your little ones. This is the wisdom of Joseph. Even after they sold everything, the land and including themselves, Joseph do not want these people to depend on Pharaoh. They want the people to work for themselves. Remember, This is a respect for their persons. People need respect. And if all they do are becoming slaves to the Pharaoh, they would have lost all respect of their own lives. And so they are to work. You remember, in Genesis chapter 3, work is the necessary part of life. And so they work. And they have harvest, and their harvest does not belong to the Pharaoh. So it says, give 1/5 to Pharaoh, meaning everything you count. You have 5 bales of barley, 1/5 you give to Pharaoh. 4/5 you keep to yourself for 2 things. For the field, so that you can plant again, and for food for your household, and for the little ones, so that you can say that you have taken care of yourself. This is respect, self-dignity. And this is how God has taught us that we should have dignity. We work for ourselves and nothing is to be handed down. Now, surely there are poor people among us that we help them, but we also need to give them the ability to have dignity. When these people in Egypt sold everything, money gone, animals gone, land gone, selling themselves, they have no dignity left. And Joseph is giving them back the dignity so that they can fend for themselves and their families. Remember, the father is the strength of the house. If the father loses his dignity, he would have lost all ability to take care of his household. And now, by this particular mechanism, Pharaoh makes some money, the people enjoy the land, and as if it was their own, because whatever they harvest belongs to them, at least 4/5. Look at the reply. So they said, you have saved our lives. This is an important phrase. The word saved is not particularly our English word. The word here is you have preserved our lives. You have let us live. That is what it means by save our lives. So the Hebrew expresses this quite differently from the English. Although it's not wrong in the English, but you know, the nuance, the angle that is expressed, that the people is very thankful that they're able to live because Joseph has given back their lives and their dignity. Now, verse 25, let us find favor in the sight of my Lord. Remember, this is Joseph. Sight means eyes. Favor means grace. So the people, even in Egypt, understands looking for grace. If you consider us useful, if we find favor in your eyes, whatever we do is worth your while. And that is grace. We will be Pharaoh's servants. Remember, the word servants is to listen to the instruction of the master and to carry it out. So Pharaoh can instruct them and they will be willing to do so. And that will be only if Joseph sees it fit. So understand this, again and again we see, grace is in the eyes of the beholder. In this case, Joseph. Verse 26, and Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt to this day, that the Pharaoh should have 1/5, except for the land of the priests, which did not become Pharaoh's. And so this is an interesting expression about grace. So grace is all over that we can see in the text. It is about finding favor in the eyes of the one who sees the people. And so the eyes of Joseph, and they look at these people who are willing to fend for themselves and take care of their own household and to plant and harvest, they are offering themselves to be Pharaoh's servants. And if that is the favor that they can find. We will complete our chapter here. So Israel went to dwell in the land of Egypt, country of Goshen. And they had possessions there, and they grew and multiplied exceedingly. Remember, they went in at 66 and they grew to big numbers. So exceedingly would be large in numbers. Again, I'll draw your attention. In Genesis 15, God said to Abraham, your descendants will be visitors in a land that does not belong to them, and they will return back to the land of Canaan after 400 years. This is the expression, growing exceedingly is to grow in larger numbers. And when they left Egypt in Exodus chapter 13, they were about 1 million people. And Jacob lived in the land 17 years. And notice when they say 17 years, it will be until the time he died. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. 130 when he met Pharaoh plus 17 makes it 147. When the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, now, if I have found favor in your sight. Notice, although Jacob is the father, it is Joseph who is number one in the land. And Jacob never forgot that. And this also shows us the dream that Joseph had when the sun, moon, and stars bowed down to Joseph. And so now in return, Jacob says, if I have found favor, and remember favor is grace in your eyes, then please put your hand under my thigh, and this is a vow, and deal kindly and truly with me. This is something that Jacob must do. Please do not bury me in Egypt. I may die in Egypt, but don't bury me in Egypt. And this is a remembrance of the fact that Abraham, Isaac, and now Jacob remembers that the family tomb is in Hebron or Hebron. It's in the cave of Machpelah, and that is where Abraham, Isaac, Sarah, Leah was buried. Right? But let me die with my fathers. Lie with my fathers means be buried with my fathers, so that you shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place called Machpelah. And that is in Hebron. Currently, it is in a place where it is in the land controlled, in the land controlled by the Palestinians. And he said, I will do as you have said. And that is the vow that Joseph made to Jacob. And then he says, swear to me. And he swore to him. So it's not enough to say, yes, I will do it. And Jacob wants it to be so specific. Swearing in Hebrew terms is to say it as the Lord lives 7 times. And that you will die also you would do. Right? That's what it means. And so Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. This is not Jacob dying, right? Jacob is just resting. And so here we end chapter 47. I will see you next week. All right.
Okay.
Bye.